Cravings aren't a character flaw, they're a symptom of metabolic dysfunction. Your brain is screaming for more food, more energy, even though there's plenty in your blood. Six early signs of insulin resistance before your doctor finds it. So you've got normal blood work. Your glucose looks fine. Your A1C still in range. So why are you constantly tired, gaining weight, and craving sugar like crazy? That's because insulin resistance starts long before anything shows up on your labs. And by the time your blood sugar is elevated, you've been metabolically broken for years. So in this episode, we're going to break down 6 early warning signs your body gives you, the ones that your doctor may overlook, but shouldn't. These are the first whispers of a storm. Catch them early and you can turn it all around. So welcome everybody. My name is Dr. Mark Shankman. Welcome back to the Obesity Project, episode 41, the first signals. So let's clear something up right away. Type 2 diabetes is not the beginning of the disease. It's the end stage of a process that began decades before, maybe 5 to 15 years earlier. Insulin resistance often starts silently. Your pancreas begins pumping out more insulin to keep your blood sugar normal. Your cells stop responding. The insulin continues to rise. You don't feel it at first, but slowly the signs start to show. Your body is trying to tell you. It's not saying it with the numbers on a lab test yet. Let's go through the 6 early signs and why they actually matter. So sign number 1 is post-meal fatigue. So you eat a full meal, maybe with rice or pasta, bread or sweets, and suddenly you're exhausted. How many of you out there ever ate a big, sweet, carbohydrate-filled meal and just felt like you just wanted to take a nap? Your focus completely disappears. You feel slowed down. And that's not normal. That's metabolic instability. So when you're insulin sensitive, your cells actually absorb the glucose and convert it smoothly into energy. But with insulin resistance, that's a dramatic difference. Glucose sits in your blood longer. Insulin overcompensates. Your blood sugar spikes and then immediately crashes. You get sleepy, you get irritable, you have brain fog. And if you feel like you need caffeine after meals, this is the first warning. This is something you should be paying attention to. It's telling you there's something wrong. So the second sign, intense cravings, especially for carbs. So have you ever finished a full meal and still crave dessert? You might feel full, but there's always room for dessert. So do you find yourself thinking about sugar even when you're full? That's not lack of willpower, that's hormonal misfiring. So insulin resistance disrupts leptin, which is the hormone that tells you that you're full. It also blunts dopamine, making you seek another hit, a hit of dopamine just to feel satisfied. So your cells are starving for fuel they can't access, even though your bloodstream is full of it. Your bloodstream is full of blood glucose, which can serve as energy, but your cells can't utilize it. So what happens? Your brain goes into panic mode. More carbs, more glucose, more energy. Cravings aren't a character flaw. They're a symptom of metabolic dysfunction. Your brain is screaming for more food, more energy, even though there's plenty in your blood. So the third sign is belly fat that won't budge. So you're eating better, you're even working out, but the fat around your waist, it simply won't move. I don't know about you, but I've had this problem myself. This is extraordinarily frustrating. So why does this happen? It's simply because of high elevated insulin level. When insulin is high, no matter what you feel, no matter how hard you're exercising, you're in permanent fat storage mode. All of that energy that you're taking in through meals is being stored as fat. So when insulin is elevated, your body literally blocks lipolysis, which is the breakdown or the oxidation of fat into energy. And so you can be in a caloric deficit and still store fat if your insulin is too high. And the fat you do gain tends to go to the viscera or the core, that visceral fat, the dangerous kind that builds up around your liver and your pancreas. So waist circumference is a better predictor of insulin resistance than is weight or BMI. So if your waist is growing, even if your weight isn't, that's your signal. And I've actually seen the opposite situation while on carnivore, where I don't really have a lot of weight to lose, and my weight has not really fluctuated all that much, maybe a couple pounds, but I've dropped 2 full waist sizes in terms of my pants and shorts. So I'm actually seeing this right now as my insulin levels drop, my insulin resistance improves or reverses. And, this is the opposite situation of what I just described. But if your, weight is staying the same, but your midsection is getting bigger, this is something you need to worry about. So the fourth sign is brain fog and mood swings. So are you struggling to focus? Are you easily irritated? Mentally cloudy no matter how much coffee you drink? That's not just stress, it's your body starving for fuel. So insulin helps neurons, the brain cells and central nervous system cells in your spine and in your central nervous system. Insulin helps those neurons use glucose efficiently. And when insulin resistance kicks in, your brain can't absorb the glucose properly. And this results in poor focus, forgetfulness, irritability, low mental energy, even cognitive decline. And remember that now Alzheimer's disease is being called type 3 diabetes for a reason. Brain fog isn't just mental, it's metabolic. All right, the fifth sign is skin tags and acanthosis nigricans. This one is visible and ignored by most doctors, unfortunately. So you want to look for things like skin tags. Skin tags are small little benign growths, usually around the neck, the chest, or the armpits. And there's no real good reason for them being there. They're extra skin formation. And then acanthosis nigricans is a dark velvety patch of the skin in those same areas. So these are both caused by elevated insulin stimulating skin growth. Now, your doctor looks at this and says, this is just a benign growth, no big deal, don't worry about it. If it's too unsightly or if they become infected, then okay, we'll remove them. But they're not really understanding the root cause of why those things are there. Very much like they don't understand the root cause of what's going on with type 2 diabetes. These are caused by elevated insulin, and they often appear years before a blood sugar problem is diagnosed. Before anyone diagnoses you with type 2 diabetes, this has been going on. So if you're seeing these changes and your doctor says it's just cosmetic, honestly, it's time to find a new doctor, or at least someone who understands metabolic markers. All right, the sixth sign is triglyceride to HDL ratio, and that ratio being out of whack. So even if your glucose and A1C are quote unquote normal, there's another lab test that tells the truth earlier on. And this is your triglyceride to HDL ratio. This is one of the strongest indicators of early insulin resistance. If your triglycerides are high, somewhere over about 150, and your HDL is low, under 40 for men or 50 for women, then you're likely already insulin resistant. So what is the ideal ratio? It should be under 1.5. Now, if you're over 2, that's a red flag. And if you're over 3, you're in the metabolic danger zone. So this ratio correlates with hepatic insulin resistance, fatty liver, and future cardiovascular risk. And again, your blood sugar may look perfect, may look totally normal. And that's what the physicians are looking at. That's what the medical profession is, sort of looking for because they can throw a pill at it and make it better. So, what do you do if you see these signs? So we've gone over the 6 signs. What do we do if we see them? If you've got 1 or 2 of these signs, don't panic. There's time to make corrections. There's a chance to reverse these things, but don't ignore them either. So here's what you can do. First, you can get tested. You can test for fasting insulin. You can test your HOMA-IR score, which is insulin resistance score. You can test your triglycerides and HDL and determine what that ratio is. You can test for ALT, which is one of the liver enzymes, to check for liver function and how well your liver is working. And you can check for waist-height ratio, and you want to aim for approximately 0.5. So, your waist circumference should be about half of what your total height is. And then some other things you can do besides testing is you can change how you eat. So cut back on the refined carbohydrates and the ultra-processed seed oils. You want to prioritize protein and healthy fats. You want to limit snacking. And this is one that's really key. Think back to when you were growing up, or maybe you had a grandmother that used to tell you if you were hungry and you wanted a snack, they tell you, no, dear, we're not going to give you that snack because that's going to ruin your appetite for your dinner or your next meal. So limiting snacking allows insulin to fall between meals, which is very, very important to allow you to use that energy that you're taking in through the meal instead of storing it away as fat. And then you want to time your food. I mentioned this in the previous video. Try some intermittent fasting, maybe a 16-8 or a 14-10. These are pretty easy to do early on. And you want to make sure that you stop eating at least 3 hours before bed. That one's really key. The other thing that you can do is you can build lean muscle. Muscle is the most insulin sensitive tissue in the body. And it's a great sink for absorbing all of that glucose that you're taking in your meal so that it's not floating around in your bloodstream, elevating your blood glucose. Another thing you can do is fix sleep and stress. So chronic stress equals chronically high cortisol, and chronically high cortisol equals increased insulin resistance or worsening of your insulin resistance. This isn't about weight loss. This is about metabolic healing. Sleep, the same thing. If you don't get a good night's sleep, you get elevated cortisol levels, again, increasing insulin resistance. So you're in closing, to kind of sum this all up for you, your blood sugar may be normal, but your body is speaking to you. If you've got cravings, fatigue, belly fat, mood swings, skin changes, abnormal lipid ratios, don't wait for the diagnosis. You cannot wait for the doctors to tell you that you're sick. You've got to do something before you become sick. You've got to treat the root cause, not the symptoms. The elevated blood sugar and the type 2 diabetes diagnosis is treating the symptom, not treating the root cause. So insulin resistance is silent at first, but the damage is real. And once you see the signs, you can change the outcome. But catch it early, you can reverse it completely. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something in this video. Stay tuned. In episode 42, we're going to be talking about the glucose trap. We'll talk about why normal blood sugar doesn't mean you're healthy and how to test it deeper. So remember, you're not broken, you're just early. And early is exactly where the change can begin. So I appreciate you taking the time. Subscribe, like, share, and comment. Do all of those things that I always tell you about. And I'll catch you in the next video. Take care. Thanks for watching.